So this is how to read music for guitar. Now it's actually part 4 in a series of videos. The first one was just talking generally about stuff and alternatives to tablature. The second talks about tablature, and the third was the first part talking about dots. And if you haven't seen those videos, it's well worth going back and having a look. In particular, the first video about musical notation and dots. Okay, so we've established that we have these temporary extension lines to our stave, and here's a little picture of how those work. And if we go the opposite direction, the same thing happens, except we're stepping downwards. So the first note I want you to look at is the E, our 6th string, our lowest note, unless we've tuned the guitar down. Okay, now you'll see from that, that's a few ledger lines underneath where our 5-line stave is. In fact, the guitar could very well have been written across 2 staves in the same way as a piano is. Now with a piano, we have a bass clef, and that tells us the 5 lines correspond to the left-hand side of the piano, broadly speaking. And then we have a treble clef, tells us it's the right. So somewhere, someone made the decision that 2 things. One is the guitar was going to be written an octave higher than it sounds, so okay, and also that it would be written on 1 clef and not 2. And I think at some point somebody assumed that all we were going to do with it was go, or some such thing. But we've hopefully managed to get a little further than that over the years. Okay, so going back to our 6th string, that's written a few ledger lines below the stave, as you can see from this diagram. What we really want to know is where the next string is written, because then we can work out what is. So if you're looking at, let's say, an F, you can say, well, okay, I know that's an F, but what you need to know is which one. Is it this one? Is it this one? Or is it this one? If we know where our A string is written, and again this is 2 ledger lines below the stave, so if we see an F written and it looks like this, or a G written and it looks like this, then it must be in between the E string and the A string. Okay, so that's really how we locate our notes, at least start to locate them. So our D is in the space just below the stave. The G, the 2nd line, the B, the 3rd line, and the E in the top space. Okay, but we could play that same E here, or here, or here, or here, or if we play the harmonic. Okay, so what dots don't tell you is where stuff is played. So there's quite a bit of calculation needed to work some things out. So simple example would be, let's say someone wrote D, A, D, F sharp, A. Well, that's not much good. We can't do that. Well, we could, but that's not what's been written. D, A, D, F sharp, A. Okay, so that means we've got to move those notes. D, A, D, F sharp, A. So now we get a rather laborious that. What if somebody wrote, well, okay, I want what if I want a D below where the E string's written? Well, I'd have to tune down for that, wouldn't I? Because we've got D, A, D, D, A, D, D, F sharp, and a D again on top of that. And here's a little example of how that might be used. Okay, so reading chords when they're written in dots is actually very difficult. That's not to say there aren't uses to it, because there are. But the easiest way to read chords, if you're doing it in dots, is to read it from the top note downwards. Yeah, so you start with your D, say, okay, I want an F sharp underneath, well I could get it there, but I'll get it there because I want a D there, and so on and so forth. Okay, it's little wonder then really that chord names were invented. I mean, imagine playing a song going and trying to read that in dots, would be absolutely crazy. Somebody says, okay, F, G, A, B, and so forth. So that's where I think the origin of chord naming and chord recipes comes from, and that's something for another video. Now, the other ingredient, of course, with reading any sort of music, however it is written, whether it's dots, tablature, or some system you've developed yourself, is going to be rhythms, and I talk about that in another video, so that's worth having a little look at that, I think, if you're not sure about your rhythms. Okay, broadly speaking then, if we know where our open strings are written, it's relatively straightforward to work out where we need to play particular notes. Now there's one other little thought for you, and that's this. Okay, let's suppose we see a B written, and it's on our second string, okay? But it's part of a pair of notes, and the pair of notes are B and D. Okay, well, clearly we can't play both notes on the same string, so the easiest way to play that, not the only way incidentally, but the easiest way to play that is to, instead of play your B as an open string, you play it on the third string and then you add back in that D. Yeah? Okay. Now, once again, as I said, that's not the only way you could do it. Suppose you had the same thing written, B and a D, and you need to play them together. Well, we've got a B there, we could play the D here. But at the end of the day, it's a question of where you think things are going to sound the best. So that's the conundrum of reading dots. There's quite a bit involved with that. So does it have its uses? Most definitely, yes. You can investigate all the classical composers. You can find out what was going through their heads when they wrote stuff. You can also investigate a lot of virtuoso players. Violin is particularly good to look at. Probably Stefan Grappelli is a good one to look at because they're all written in the treble clef, so it's nice and easy for a guitar transposition. Anyway, so that's about it for the moment. So I hope that's answered some questions. It may well have raised some other questions as well. If that is the case, or you think I've rushed something, or there's something else you need me to explain about this, please get in touch. Happy to come back and do another feature on this, depending on what problems people find. Anyway, that's it for now. So thank you very much for watching, and as ever, if you could hit the subscribe button, that would be great. And see you soon. Thanks again.